Mm.
How many of you all know that 70% of men fear showing vulnerability because they believe it will lead to rejection and ridicule? Y'all, we're going to take a deep dive into this. Tonight, I am fortunate to have free. Last week we had a brief discussion about this. I was, speaking from a lady's standpoint. Tonight we are blessed to have free with us to help us learn more about men. And
Mhm.
hopefully, ladies, we can take this information and not use it against them, but actually help build our men up. So, free, it is so good to see you again. What is good?
Man, what it do? Less up. Been a minute, man. Glad to be back. I tell you that.
Yes,
Man,
yes.
season 2. What it do?
Season
Uh,
two, here we are.
man, I'm ready. I'm ready. I studied for this topic.
Okay.
I did some deep, research. It's just who I am. To be honest with you, I'm gonna tell y'all where vulnerability came from. Ain't gonna believe it.
Okay. School me.
All right, let me know when class is in session.
We Y'all let us know where you're watching from in the comments section. I know it's been a while since, but we are back. Again, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Shout out where you're watching from. We would love to hear from you. And this is going to be a very interactive
Mhm.
live stream tonight. I think it's really important that we have an open discussion to discuss more so, vulnerability in men and what that looks like today. It definitely doesn't look the same that it did 10, 20 years ago. And I think, tonight, again, I want to challenge you all um, to take vulnerability, keep an open mind. Let just, if anything, keep an open mind, because we got a lot we're going to be discussing tonight.
Lot to unpack.
A lot to unpack. Okay, so now I had to write my questions down because I had a lot. I had like 15 questions, and I said, you know what, that's doing a bit much. So I tried. I call myself. We'll see. Anyway,
Okay.
so and to give an intro to the topic, when we were speaking of vulnerability, I know a lot of people have heard or have been around when someone said, or you may even say, hey, big boys don't cry, or man up. We love to say man up. And I think sometimes that can bring a negative connotation to a lot, giving boys the wherewithal to know that it's okay to show your emotions. Like, I think that makes it seem like you're being weak if you do X, Y, and Z. And so it's important too, because being vulnerable also is like a direct correlation to how we interact in our relationships. I,
Hmm.
I know, being, my husband, it's been tough. Like, it's been hard to crack him open and try to get him to open up. And so a lot of the times I didn't quite understand. I think I do now, but I still got a lot of questions. So
Hmm.
my first question is, why do you think that men were told that they need to man up, or that big boys don't cry?
Um. So why?
Yeah. Why?
Well, allow me to go into the etymology of the word to explain.
Mm.
All right. So I told you I did my research,
Oh,
right?
you came ready, y'all. He came ready today.
So the word itself, the word vulnerability, what do you think it means?
When I think of vulnerability, I think of allowing yourself to openly express yourself with no judgment.
I would definitely take that. So I got one more question for you, Les,
Okay.
before I get to the answer. Do you like pie?
Why, yes, of course I love
What's
pie.
your favorite pie?
I'm not a big fruit pie fan. I'm all about pecan and I'm all about key lime pie.
All right. So I asked that. My favorite is pecan too, by the way. I
Okay.
asked that because the origin of the word comes from something called pie, Proto Indo European. Proto Indo European.
Okay, now that's
That's a,
interesting.
that's a region over in the eastern part of the world, right?
Europe. Mm.
Most times we derive our words from Latin. So I got in my nerd bag. I went to Latin, the Latin noun vulnus, vulnus means wound,
Okay.
right? Which created the verb vulnerare, meaning
Mm.
to wound. Then I said, where did
Ah.
Latin come from? And I got to the Proto Indo European area where they try to find out where the languages come from. And it comes from several places, but everybody had the same meaning. So eventually it all merged.
Hmm.
They have the spelling of the Proto Indo European piece, but they don't know what it sounds like because there's no history of it. But it looks like ah. So
Okay.
why would a man want to wound himself for you? Why would a person want to just knowingly hurt themselves? Because that's what vulnerability actually is. All right. Vulnerability is allowing yourself the freedom to be at somebody else's whim for your emotions. Why were men told to man up?
Mm.
Because what's the saying? Who cries? Girls cry. So if I'm out there on the battlefield, we can go way back here with it. If I'm out there on the battlefield, can't have no vulnerability. Oh, I got shot. I got shot too. Man up. The 300, one of my favorite movies.
I love that movie.
So attack the concept and not the person. When you attack
Okay.
when you attack the person, a war starts, and when you attack concepts, we can get answers. All right. So do you remember the scene in the 300 where the guy came to deliver the message? He turned around, kicked him in the hole.
Oh yeah.
That's where we got "Don't kill the messenger" from, because he killed the messenger, which meant the message couldn't get back to the other king in
Other
time.
king.
So let's start a war, right?
Mm.
Alexander the Great. A lot of people, talk about this. We haven't had women on the battlefield, right? I mean, not back then.
Yeah.
Back then, the lovers, so the LGBTQ was in full effect way back then because his army, they were all lovers. The theory back then was it makes you fight harder to see your loved one in danger, right? I got to see my loved one vulnerable. I'm going to do everything I can to stop it. So,
This is interesting. Yeah.
so the first thing you've got to do is allow yourself to be vulnerable. It's scary. Anything
Mm,
wounding, hurting, we don't want to do it. So, emotional vulnerability, that's something that I don't have to do. Nobody sees it, nobody knows. But something physical, yeah. But what I can keep on the inside, that's very gentle. And
mm.
I think the better question is, are people healthy enough to handle other people's vulnerability?
Ooh.
So it's not that men are afraid of emotional vulnerability, because I tell you what, men are more vulnerable with other men. I have I got a really good friend, and was going through something, and guess what he asked me before he started talking?
What?
Free, can I be vulnerable for a minute? Those were his words. What that triggered in me was, my dog need me right, bro. What you got?
Mm,
Typically, we are afraid to be that way with our significant others because we haven't gone through enough. In order to be vulnerable, to be boldly vulnerable, I've got to been experience something with you.
mm-hmm.
You saw my vulnerability. You didn't hurt me. You didn't take advantage of it. You actually helped me out of it. Now I trust you. Now I know if there's another vulnerable moment, I can come and talk to you. So that opens it up.
So y'all have to warm up to us, is what you're telling me, before you feel like you can be vulnerable. Like,
Yeah. I
is
mean,
it like a test? Like, so I'm gonna see if I can be vulnerable with this little thing and see how that goes.
you got to throw it out there, because if you're not vulnerable, if you're not good with that small thing, why would I give you much?
Hmm.
You can hurt me a little bit, or you can hurt me a whole lot. I'm gonna try this little bit first.
I, I can understand that. Although, well, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Have you ever felt the pressure to be strong and emotionless?
Mm. Um. Ooh, that's actually a really good question. Strong and emotionless.
Less,
Um.
yes.
I don't think that exists.
Mm.
Um. Have I been asked to? Absolutely. I think all men have. But
Mm.
is it possible? No, because it's natural. It's emotions are not things we have to think about. I think I'm gonna be mad. It don't work like that. It's in the moment. So when I gotta respond, a lot of times, if you're not healthy enough, you will respond with that emotion or out of that emotion instead of letting that emotion come, understand what it is, and then making a decision on what to do with what you feel.
With that. No, this is the second time I've heard you refer to healthy state.
Mhm.
Can you expand upon what you mean by being in a healthy state?
I think we've heard hurt people, but we don't
Ah,
ever really hear healthy people help healthy people, right? So
mm,
if you haven't done the work and I open up and I'm vulnerable to you, and boom, you hit me, you knock it down, I'm hurt. Okay. You haven't done the work, because you would have known that the mere fact that a man is telling you something of this nature is vulnerability. So your response to me,
Mhm.
it kind of at that moment it means everything. So I mean, this is very when you try to legislate emotions or you try to govern emotions, you can't get an answer because everybody's emotions are different. But the let me, you know what? Let me come back to that one. That's a good question. I gotta dig into that a little bit.
So I'm wondering too, if you are so accustomed to manning up,
Mm,
now you're in this relationship and she's, asking you, hey, how is it that you feel about this? Or, be honest with me
mm,
about X, Y, and Z. Do you think that because you have been so hard or man up so much that you get to a point where you can't be vulnerable?
no, I think that because of that, we want to. We want to have that soft place to land. We want to be able to talk to the one person I'm supposed to be able to talk to and
Mhm.
not feel that way. So, do people know what vulnerability looks like? Is even a good question.
Ooh, facts.
So, your vulnerability doesn't look like mine. Mine doesn't look like your husband's. Your husband's doesn't look like the next man's. So, what does vulnerability look like for your person? I've been in relationships where somebody told me something, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't think I would have told nobody that." But then their response is, "Oh, that I thought that that was something hard for you to tell me because it would have been hard for me to tell you something like that about me." But we always we oftentimes we don't put ourselves in the other person's shoes because
Mhm.
that ain't vulnerability for to them. I thought I was sharing with you. Well, no, because that ain't that ain't deep. That ain't so I can't tell you what your vulnerability is. Me telling you, oh, that ain't deep. That might be the most traumatic thing this person has ever experienced. But to you, it's not. You have to understand what the other person's vulnerability looks
Wow, yeah. I never looked at it from that aspect because when you say that, I immediately think of how with this day and age, everybody is to me seems like an overshare.
like. Mm.
And when you said I wouldn't have shared, said that or shared that, I immediately thought of all these people that get on social media and just overshare. It's
Absolutely.
okay. So my next question, because we're talking about social media, how have societal expectations affected your ability to express your emotions in a healthy way? Because
Um,
there is truly a difference of sharing your emotions in a healthy way versus in an unhealthy way.
mhm.
Which, and when I say unhealthy, I'm referring to like shoot 'em up, bang bang, like
Yeah, get bad ugly in that room.
right.
So you know what? That now social media is dangerous.
Ooh.
Because you have whole parts of social media dedicated to what a man is supposed to be. You
Mhm.
have whole parts that are dedicated to what a woman's perspective of what a man is supposed to be. You have another set that says, oh, your way or the highway. The other set that says, hey, accept everybody. What are you to do with all of that? 24/7, absorbing this information. And one day you might feel like this. One day you might feel like this. So it becomes circumstantial, healthy, undo everything, find out where the core is, and move forward. One of the I guess greatest things I've seen recently, and this will lend to the power of social media, You remember Young Dro?
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
shoulder lean. So Dro, I mean, I'm talking about one of my favorite artists. He's taken over Christian rap. He's been to rehab.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's been to rehab. I mean, he's talking, I mean, good stuff, right? I watched the interview with him, and one of the interviewers said, "Man, I heard they gotta take your phone. They monitor your phone." And they started laughing, and he pulls out a flip phone. He says, "I have a flip phone. I need to stay off of social media. I have
Mm,
people that post for me on social media. With this flip phone, I can't get, I can't do all of that type of stuff. So it keeps
right.
my mind clear." He
Mm.
doesn't have a smartphone because of social media. I remember Kevin Gates. Women love him. He, they crazy about it. Masculine. Guess what he ended up saying? I had to get off social media. He was finna commit suicide behind
Wow.
social media. So that influence is way stronger than I think people understand. And I've just recently been like delving into that, and I'm like, man, this is it's crazy because at one point in time, the theory was people are dumb because there's not access to information.
Mm,
Now you have unlimited access to
access.
information and you choose what you want to do. So the accessibility of the information wasn't the problem. So why aren't they learning that to make themselves better? So social
Speaking
media.
of when you said that he was thinking about unaliving himself. I mentioned this in last week, and I thought this was it just aligned, and it was a very alarming that I can't believe it's 72 or 78% of all people that unalive themselves are men.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And it correlates to me to where they feel like they can't be vulnerable enough and express themselves to someone because they feel like they're carrying this weight and they have nobody to talk to. And that kind of really messed with my head because I'm like, dang,
so
am I creating a space or an environment for my husband to be vulnerable so that he doesn't have to
yeah,
have that stuff around with him all the time to the point where he feels like there's no other option?
you know, hearing you say that it brings up the importance of girlfriends night, dudes hanging out. We gotta go somewhere, and when you can't go anywhere, I think that happens a lot more than not. But for your statistic though, y'all attempt more. We're just more successful.
Hmm. I might get in trouble for this comment, but I sometimes I feel like when you're attempting, you are trying to reach out and get someone's attention to let someone know that you need some love.
And guess what? Guess what that says? I can't be vulnerable. I gotta go to this extra
Mhm.
for you to see me. I can't walk up to you and say, "Hey, I got a problem." I gotta show you that I'm willing to go this far. So I went into this on the men, because that was the question. But what I want people to do, because we'll keep having man woman conversations,
Mhm.
have a human conversation. We're humans. We have certain, like, we all have certain things that we all have in common. Going back to your original question, if you get shot in the shoulder right now, how do you think you're going to sound? You're gonna scream.
I
It hurts
am. Oh
at
yeah.
the top of your lungs because that's how the body helps to get rid of stuff, even through the sound when we do things, right?
Mm,
If I get shot, guess what? I'm a yell. I'm a scream because it hurt because I'm a human.
yeah.
But guess what they're gonna say? He screamed like a girl, or he screamed like a woman. No, I scream like a human that's been shot. Have you heard some of the sounds animals make when they get shot?
Mm,
Some of the biggest, baddest. I bet you won't go tell him are you weak? It hurt. So listen, I'm 6'2". I'm what 235. I'm considered a large man.
yeah. Yeah.
But by women in relationships, when I attempted the vulnerability, I've been called weak. I've been called needy. Like those are things that will make me shut down. Uh, you cannot call a man his essence man. Nothing says
Mm,
nothing that you would allow as a woman says weak. He got to protect you, can't be weak. He's got to provide for you, can't be weak. Right? So when they have a human experience, it's relegated to weakness instead of understanding, no, you know what? He's a human. He's a different human than I am, but
yeah.
all humans have this in common. I was also told you can't be vulnerable with not, I won't say all women. You can't be vulnerable with women that you haven't built that rapport with.
Rapport with.
Because an emotionally healthy woman or even an emotionally aware woman would know, don't call him weak, don't call him
Mm,
soft, don't, demean his like his essence. So again, go back to the healthy enough to have
yeah.
real vulnerability.
Okay, let's take a quick break and take a look at some of these comments that we got. Um, all the things Salon he says social creates a platform where l- losing life forever, so nobody wants to lose. That creates a lot of sensitive people. Um, Follow up with hashtag live by the cheers, die
Mm.
by the booze. Wow.
Yeah. So that's my guy. That's my guy, Jonathan, man. Now, you want to know what's crazy about that? It's him and his wife's 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
And I've known him and his wife the entire time. I knew them when they were dating, when they were courting. And I have watched their relationship evolve over time. But what
Yeah.
I can say now, I can't say from the inside looking out, but from the outside looking in at that relationship,
Mhm.
they've always taken care of each other because they've always told each other the truth. And if the truth hurts, it's not intentional, it's just the truth.
It's funny you say that because I mentioned last week my husband had to and I had to grow into that because I would cook and a lot of times I would try to do something new, trying to spice it up a little bit, and I'm like, oh, what did you think? Is it good? And he didn't want to hurt my feelings, so he would be like, yeah, it's good,
Ooh, ooh.
and then I'd be like, for real, because you didn't eat much on your plate. He was like, well, it was. And then I get mad. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I'm creating a space, an environment where he is feeling like if he's honest with me, then it's going to cause this reaction. Ladies, we have got to do a better job about creating a safe space for our significant others. Because
So
where else can they go?
now speaking of that was a beautiful point, right? Because I don't think people would see his reaction as vulnerability. Again,
Mm,
can we recognize it and see what vulnerability is? In that moment, you couldn't see it because you wanted to hear something, and you
right.
pressed him, and uh, that's the vulnerability. Trying to like, should I give it or not? So he's not able to be vulnerably honest. Right. So check this out. So from a psychological perspective, some level of vulnerability is required to have healthy relationships.
Mm,
Definitely agree. Don't want to be in a relationship with nobody that you feel like you don't know. But this was the one I liked. Being vulnerable with others is a sign of honesty and emotional intelligence.
hmm.
So I gotta be able to say what I want to say and not have a fear of what your reaction is.
Yes.
I need to be able to
Hmm.
be honest with you. And emotional intelligence says I'm going to be honest no matter what the
What?
circumstance is. So if somebody is being honest with you about a sensitive topic, don't take it to heart. Understand they're being vulnerable. They're being honest. They're and I promise you they would expect the same in return, and they wouldn't take it to heart like you did. But like you said, y'all had to grow into it.
Hmm.
People got to grow into
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Jamon, how are you? We are doing excellent tonight.
it.
He also says the truth has no agenda. When something hurts, it needs to be addressed. Wow, that's facts. I think that is my issue is I don't address a lot of things that I need to,
Mm-hmm.
even when it hurts me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's definitely not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on it. He working on me. You know what I'm saying?
I think people take you know, people that are forward, people that don't mind speaking their minds, they take them as being mean, they take them as being crass and
Mm,
just insensitive. But it depends on how you grew up. Because everything that we have now, every question that is on any social media platform, any show, in every question can be answered if we just go back home, go back to the root. Well, probably every man I know at least heard, suck it up, boys don't cry, like you said, very early on. I started playing football at 5, so I've been hearing man up since,
oh yeah.
you know. So I mean, I did you see that comment? After 20 years.
Oh, hey, they've been together for 20 years.
And she is the queen of I don't
Have
like
respect. Have to gain respect for each other before you can start telling
that.
the truth.
Ooh.
Oh, that goes into my neck. I wanted to end on this, but it's just a great segue because my question was, how can we as women encourage you, our significant other, to be more vulnerable?
um Ask the beginning of the question again because I want to make sure I caught the right
So,
words.
how can we as women encourage
Okay.
you to be more vulnerable? Like, what do we need to do? Ladies,
Now, there you
again,
go.
and I don't like this about it. The men will tell us, will give us the blueprint, and we still miss the mark. We still don't listen. I have a great gentleman on here right now, and also in the comments, we got some good gentlemen giving y'all the blueprint. Let's take notes. Get your pen, baby, and start writing. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to go off on a tangent.
All right.
So I learned that the hard way. He would tell me things, and I wouldn't listen. Y'all giving us the blueprint.
So
Giving us the blueprint. Let's go.
Listen, understand, and don't punish us for the honesty. I'm trying to figure out a better way to say this without it sounding ugly, because part of the problem, though, I believe, with women listening and men talking, or vice versa, is we don't deliver the message right. So there's a better way for me to tell you, just shut up, right? That ain't gonna get it.
Yeah.
What I need from you is, when I am talking to you, don't cut me off. Just listen to me, because I start to get lost when I'm explaining and you take me somewhere else because you heard one thing and I want to address that. That little thing that you latched on to, that ain't even the focus of where I'm going. But you pull us there to distract us from getting there. And that's why the problem don't get solved, because we get stuck right here arguing. So just listen to us. I know, ladies, I know it's hard. Just even if you got to do that, just let us get it out, right? When that doesn't happen, it turns combative, right? I got some good stuff over there. Be patient. I'm not sharing until I know there is no judgment. So give it time. That only comes with time. You know what? I'll see my buddy a couple days. I'm going to ask him this. In 20 years, what are you still learning? Because you never know a person. You never know them all the way. As long as you and your husband have been together, as long as my boy and his wife have been together, nobody knows every little thing about us. Mike Tyson had an amazing quote when he was interviewing Lil Boosie, and he asked Boosie, "It's like, man, do you have somebody that you can share everything with?" Boosie like, "Yeah, I got some people that I can tell everything to." Mike said, "No, you don't. None of us have that. So you got somebody that you can call and say, man, I don't like that person over there. I just want to go get a butcher knife and just cut them out." You can't tell anybody that, and they still look at you the same. So, and it's Mike Tyson. It's an extreme example, but that's his mind. We all have had some kind of thought when we were put in a situation to have it. And you like, you probably even thought to yourself, but you did. Now, take that moment and see who you can tell that to without judgment.
That's a good question.
Nobody.
Shout out to Rashad. Hey, you're more than welcome to come on up. Let me know if you want one. It back to all things salon sweet. My wife is the queen of I don't like that.
Hey, and I know her personally. And you know what? Give me E. So the very first time I met her, I had absolutely no reason to ever be vulnerable with her because of the first interaction. I told you, I've always been a big guy. The first time I ever met her, she was on the phone with somebody. She was like, "Oh yeah, he bought his frat friend." right? We laugh and we joke about all that stuff today. Everything is cool. But that just goes to show how you know I wasn't sensitive about my weight. I'm vulnerable walking around. Do you think about that? Think about some people that have health issues that they can't help. They're really, really big, or they have some kind of deformity or something like that. They walk around vulnerable every single day
Mm,
because of how they look, their insecurities with themselves, and how mean are people.
yeah.
We're not healthy enough as a society to allow people to be vulnerable, even if they can't help it. That's what people thrive on, right? So
Yeah.
over
'Cause those comment sections be brutal sometimes. I'm like,
right. Well,
ooh,
we
that's
run to the
mm.
comments. But let me
Ah.
let me let me let me get back to that because I digressed a little bit. But I've seen her growth. I've seen her growth from that moment forward. I guess I don't know. She probably was like, "Oh yeah, he gonna be around. Let me be cool with him." And like relationship, man, cool as ever. Every time I see her, hey, what's up? What's up? Not like it's cool. But guess what? We grew there. If I would have been unhealthy and be like, man, I don't like her, bro. She da 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 da. Like I gotta get kudos to myself not thinking about that because I was healthy enough to absorb that and not take it, in the way that it was. It wasn't. I don't think it was intended harshly. Guess what
Yeah.
though? It was the truth because I was fat at the time. No, so that might be why I wasn't bothered. I've always been the big guy. So you got to be healthy enough to be vulnerable, and you got to be healthy enough to accept others'
So,
vulnerability.
okay. Um, over in Instagram, no love, be don't use vulnerability as ammunition.
Mm, okay. Hmm.
Yeah,
I would
like
I would want to know how that would be ammunition though, because the only way I could see it is if I use that not to share something with you.
mm,
If I'm trying to be vulnerable with you, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm a little shy, I'm a little vulnerable, so I don't have to talk to you, then I can see it being weaponized that way.
I think he's referring more to females
Mm.
using it as ammunition.
I'm trying to make that correlation.
So you know what? Let me see if I can pull it up too.
I'm gonna tell you
Because
what came to my mind.
Shaq made a very similar comment. I don't know if you saw it
Mhm.
on I saw it on Twitter. Um, but I thought it was interesting. And me being in my bubble, I didn't realize that this is how a lot of men feel.
Mm.
So let me see if I can share this with you guys real quick. Let's see here. If it'll let me.
Yeah, I see the vulnerability attack, in the comments, and that I'll tell you, if we had to choose one singular thing for men, that's what it
Uh,
would be on the vulnerability front. I don't want to be able to tell you something and then come back because I'm not perfect. You throw it in my face. And again, if I do something and you do bring it up, it's about how it gets communicated because there's a way to not throw it in my face to bring
uh,
awareness to it.
okay, I get it. Okay, here we go. Let's see.
Open up to a woman? Yeah. Never. No. No.
I don't know if y'all can hear that. No.
So why you looking for that? And we talking about Shaq. I thought about the vulnerability both ways, right? So who was being vulnerable and who wasn't? Go ahead. I'll let this go.
Okay, let's play this.
You open up to a woman?
Yeah.
Never. No, never.
When's the last time you think you've opened up to a woman?
We don't.
Your whole life.
Bro, I'm telling you.
Man, got players like I can. Me and him related.
Yeah.
It's our first time meeting,
Yeah, I
but
can tell you guys there's some connection here.
Oh no,
If they gonna tell you, you can't.
because you know why?
It's a trap.
Because you know why?
I'm trapped.
No. I'm gonna tell you why. Because once you do, whenever something go down, they're gonna throw it back in your face.
So that's
why. That's why. So you can't ever.
That's why you crackers, your dad left you.
Yeah. You open up to
You know what? You know what's funny about that? Wow. So he said, oh, you cried when your dad died. Man, like people do that so often for stuff that's supposed to be normal, but that just shows you how abnormal they are.
When's the last time you think you opened up to a woman?
So
He put emphasis on ever.
That's difficult.
So I think that it's not about ever. It's about if we're talking about the average people, I believe it's a slow trickle to full vulnerability. We keep even in the comments. I've said it. You've said it. You got to grow to a certain space. Things take time, and that's why I say be patient. Because if you can't be patient and you try to rush something that takes time to get out, you're going to either get a piece of it or a complete shutdown. And you don't want either one of those.
Rashad says, I tell you a weak or vulnerability, and then it's later used to attack.
Yeah, that's what they all just said. You're going to throw it back in my face.
All things Salon Sweet said, we have both grown and learned to express love other ways other than humor. That has come from growth and maturity. Yeah. I have learned a lot. So before we go, because I don't like to hound on the topic, but thank y'all for joining. And all the comments, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I want us to end on you giving us some free game before we close out on this topic. And again, let me, ladies, if you did not take your notes, reiterate. 1, listen. 2, understand. And 3, I didn't even write my notes. What was the third one? Understand.
Be patient.
Ooh, understand. Patience. Okay, y'all heard it. Blueprint. All right, free. Give us some of that free game.
All right. So the question is, why are the men not emotionally vulnerable? All right. But the answer is we are emotionally vulnerable with our children, especially the boys, because we have to teach them through the truth of our own mistakes. And guess what happens? They don't judge us for it. They appreciate us sharing the knowledge. Think how powerful that is. I told you how I messed up, and you thank me. That's powerful. That'll make me do it again. That lets me know I can trust you with my mess ups and not be judged. And you don't take it to heart. You learn from it if it applies to you. So to have access to male vulnerability, you got to go through something and survive it emotionally. A lot of my male friends, we tight. We went through something, whether we fought each other, whether we fought other people, whether we were on a court together, whether we were on a field together. I gotta trust you're not gonna let him come over here and just smack me in the, in the head. I gotta trust that. So I gotta be vulnerable with you. We have done that over and over and over. So the key is you have to go through something. Don't do it intentionally because you ain't gonna get it that way. But you gotta go through something and you gotta survive it emotionally. And that's the free game.
Y'all heard it here. Thank y'all so much for joining us. We love y'all. Can't wait to see you guys next week. Live stream every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and link down there. I'm on this side. Down here, we got the Cash App, as well as in the YouTube description, we have the link for Lather and More, who is our sponsor for tonight. All right, Free, thank you. I'm super excited about season 2. We got a lot coming.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? We gotta have to put a wager on these Colts this year.
Oh, come on, let's go.
I'm going to Indy when they play up there.
Okay.
I'm going.
Let's go. I might have to meet you there. Might have to meet you there. Yes. All right, ladies and gents, have a beautiful, blessed, productive week, and we will see y'all next week. All right.